Evan Marshall from Black Menswear, and from the Dad Gang, Sean Williams, to moderate the Build Your Health panel discussion sponsored by Shea Moisture Men.
Yo. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Had the last conversation, so would you say they started from the bottom?
Yeah.
We're here? So
you're right. So we're here now.
We are here. We're going up. So yes, my name is Evan Marshall. I'm COO of Black Menswear. This is my esteemed colleague, Sean Williams.
Thank you, brother.
Founder of the Dad, the world's greatest dad, self-proclaimed and proclaimed by me as well.
Thank you very much.
We're here today to discuss health. The first person we're going to bring out is a man. He got so much stuff going on. Main thing I want you to know, he's an author, speaker, mental health expert. He has a table out front. His name is Jay Barnett. He has a book called Just Heal, Bro. If you have not get a chance to check it out, definitely pick it up and check it out on the way out. So we want to bring out Jay Barnett.
Give it up for Jay.
King Jay Barnett. Next we got coming up. Actually, I found out like my African name is the same as his name when I was in Ghana earlier this year. So that's one of the things I wanted to give a shout out to. His name is Kizzle Forson. So we kind of like brothers because we got the same name, right? But I call him Kizzle.
Did we call you Kofi now?
I call him Kizzle. He's the founder of really a great thing what we're all trying to do here today. He's the founder of Express Yourself Black Man. So I want to welcome out Kofi to the stage.
Next up, we got a brother, an amazing guy. He's coming out here. He is a director, an author, and a owner. He's also, well, you could check him out on Instagram. It's called Badass Vegan. So you already know he's about to drop some badass gems on us. Come on out, John Lewis. Come on, brother.
Miss me with that bush. You ain't really wild, you a tourist. I be blacking out with the purist. I made a
turn up music, and they gave y'all the extra basic though.
One gave me.
Next, I'm just running through like these titles are just like amazing to see these brothers. Coming up next is a champion, an investor, a creator. Who has titles like these? You know what I'm saying? Like, you can find him on Instagram, Ryan Mundy. Come through, Ryan. Drop some gems on us.
Do it back, look. Need two life jacks, look. I ain't gon' hold you. I ain't gon' pressure, never control you. I ain't gon' front you.
I'm gonna have a drink while we do this. It is Uncle Near, so it is black on, so don't judge me. So, co-sign them.
So, as we know, we like to say health is wealth, and we know why we say that, because without health, we have nothing else. You know what I mean? So we're gonna start from the top. And some of these brothers, it's just amazing to be sitting on a panel with some champions in the health and mental wellness space, because we know how important that is and how hard it is for us as black men to deal with these issues. So I'm really just in awe and inspired and thankful that we have men like you guys championing something like health and wellness.
Yeah, and I would just piggyback off of that and saying one thing we're loving about having all four of these guys, they do it in their own each individual way. So what I would love to kind of have, quick 30 seconds, each of you guys talk about how you guys are creating a space and changing the narrative within the health space. And Jay, we'll start with you to kick things off.
So last year I've written a book titled Just Heal, Bro, and it has grown into a nationwide tour, the Just Heal, Bro tour. We have completed 15 cities with 4 cities left, and what we're doing is creating a therapeutic experience and an atmosphere for brothers to come in, myself and some other brothers that I work with, some psychologists, Joe Tugman, associate pastor of the Potter's House, Lamont Rucker. And what we're doing, man, is we're creating space for these brothers to help them to identify not only just what an issue is, but how can they begin to navigate and begin the healing journey. So I share from being a former pro athlete, share from being a clinician, and then also share my own personal experience.
So I think the key thing he said that your healing journey, it is a journey, it's a process.
Absolutely, brother.
Yeah. It is a process, and things do not happen overnight. Kizzle?
Yeah, absolutely. So we run a platform called Express Yourself Black Man. I always talk about leading with vulnerability. That's what we're going to do on this panel, is lead with vulnerability, and that's basically talk from our experience, things that we've dealt with. And I find that as a black man, when you have black men around you that talk about the things that they experience, and share openly, it makes everybody else feel more comfortable. And so that's what we do. We create a community of healing on Instagram. And then outside of Instagram, because you can't just heal on social media alone, you need resources. We also have a platform called Safe Haven, where we facilitate partnerships with other Black organizations that
That's
have
amazing.
low-cost therapy, medical concierge service, healthcare, group therapy, community forums, things of that nature. So it's all about raising awareness, but also bringing solutions into the community as well.
It's amazing.
Yep.
We can say the applause to the end. You don't got to clap for everybody. It's going to take a long time.
I'm not. I'm going. You know, I talk a lot, but I'm going to get this one out. Right now, I work in film. That's one of my main things I do. If anybody's ever seen the film What the Health, that's one of my films. And now I just finished up the follow-up film, which is based off of social justice and food justice through the lens of hip-hop. So we got it executive produced by Chris Paul and Billie Eilish. And I feel like you have to meet people where they are. People aren't out reading books as much as they used to be. So now we're trying to get them to see the films and understand the knowledge of what's going on with their health as far as food, which actually affects your mental health. People forget that, you know, what you eat actually goes to the brain as well. So I think that's important. And got a book coming out next year in March, and we'll talk about the rest later.
Amazing.
Cool. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ryan Mundy, and I am founder and CEO of Alchemy Health. We are a mental health and wellness platform specifically focused on Black culture. How do we do that? We make mental health video courses that show up as master classes. So imagine like a online learning platform with a course that has specific subjects like healing from generational trauma, being Black in the workplace, etc. We also make meditations and mindfulness practices, and we also host live well-being experiences on our platform. My background, I heard the comment about where are all those names coming from, but my background is in athletics. I played football my entire life, but more specifically, I played 8 years in the NFL. In my experience with mental health and wellness, and when we talk about leading with vulnerability, at the age of 31, I retired and, you know, was dealing with anxiety, depression, identity issues. Didn't know who and what I was, and this was 6 years ago. And so we've come a very long way. I'm excited to dive into this conversation because there's no better time than now to be talking about health, wellness, and particularly for Black men. So thank you for having me.
Amazing.
Thank you for joining us. I think one thing, just kind of making it now, is we really want this to be a conversation. That was one of the things John and I saw. I wanted each of you all to go now so everybody in the audience had context of who you are and obviously why you've earned the right to be up here as well. But at the same time, we don't want it to feel like, hey, Jay, hey, Kizzle, hey, John. Like,
Right.
Feel in. If John says something great and Jay, you want to add to it, cool. Just make it more conversational so it feels more engaging. Same time as well, we want you in the audience to forget. So if you actually have a question as well you want to ask throughout this, somebody said, please come down to the front.
No, we actually got to do it through the app. They said the question through the app, yeah.
Cool, my bad.
All good.
I like how you said if John said something good. I appreciate that.
So I got a question for Jay, but anybody feel free. So I've been following your platform or whatnot, and one of the things that really resonated with me recently was a quote that you put where it says, "A man that finds his voice finds his way." Right? So I know that's really hard for somebody like a CEO or a head of the household or somebody in a leadership position who feels like they're asking for help makes them seem weak. Right? Imagine you being like the man in the house and you need space to process your emotions, or you're a CEO, or all of these different positions where you are in a leadership role and you don't know how to simply ask for help. So what like strategies, or how does a man find his voice in those spaces and still hold on to his respect or still not feel like his manhood is threatened?
Well, I think it's important for us to uncover how did we get to that place. I think the way that we have been socialized as boys growing up determines the lack and just the inability to really share our voice and to express our voice. Because what happens typically is how we do work is not how we do life. And it's very different because how we do work is from a very performative perspective, and then how we do life, we're showing up based off of our childhood issues, based off of our social and development environment. And I think for the man who's able to find his voice, goes back to what Kizzle said, is that you have to be able to tap into a level of vulnerability and a level of sensitivity. And that can really, or should I say, it can only take place in a therapeutic experience. It does not have to take place in therapy. And one of the tools that I love to use and really challenge men to do is journaling. You know, journaling is something that is still new to men. I think girls have been journaling for years in their diaries. You know, they was raised to write down their thoughts and their feelings and their emotion. And so the challenge that men have is the inability to express it because we have not been programmed to express. So I can give order at work, but then I find it difficult to tell my wife how I'm feeling. Because there's an intimate dynamic with my wife rather than my subordinates. And I think that it's important to help men to understand that you can have a voice outside of what you do. Meaning that, as I've been saying, as I've been on this tour, is that we are human beings, not human doing. And so when men can understand that you're not a machine, you have a voice, and what you say is valid and what you feel is valid, I think that empowers a man to understand that I can utilize my voice and have an expansive range of emotion that just doesn't reflect anger and aggression.
Yeah, can I build on that real quick?
By all means.
When you were talking, I'm reminded of a time when I got drafted in 2008, and I'm trying to figure things out. Mike Tomlin pulled me to the side. It's like high stakes. You're trying to impress everybody, the performative element of it. He pulled me aside and he said, football is what you do. It's not who you are, right? So when I hear find your voice, it's really about knowing yourself, knowing yourself out of physical activity or what you do for your job, but who are you on the inside, and taking that journey to understand and having confidence in knowing your worth and not connecting your worth to external acts. I think that's really, really important. So that voice and understanding who you are, that piece really, really resonated with me.
And I think too, to add to that, Ryan, here's what we have to do better, our brothers, is we have to take time to sit with ourselves.
Yeah. Man,
there it is. There it is.
We're so focused on the bag, and we're so focused on the image of trying to acquire that we don't spend time to inquire. Right? We're not taking time to sit with things that we're running from, because what we do is we typically find ourselves overworking, overperforming, trying to find validation in other areas rather than validating ourselves through our experiences.
And we live through fear. So a lot of people don't even realize this, that and we say this all the time. People will say, oh man, you're alone. Well, there's nothing wrong with being alone.
Right.
Lonely and alone is two different things. And we tend to shy away from being alone, but that's where you find yourself. Right. But a lot of us are scared to find ourselves because we've never even spent 2 seconds by ourselves, even as a kid. Right. So now to be an adult, you're wait, I'm literally feeling like a kid now, because what do I do? And that's pretty tough for a lot. And I'm sure there's a lot of men out there damn, man, that makes sense, because we have a fear of being alone. Yeah. Whether it's our mom, our dad, our cousin, our brother, we always got somebody. And that one time you single, that one time you at home, that one time whatever it is, you scared them walls gonna start closing in, and you gonna find out who you really are.
So Sean and I were talking earlier about how for a lot of black men, one of the biggest motivators for actually healing is relationships, right? And when you think about us and what we base our identity off of, it's really 2 things most of the times, right? It's money and sex. Right? And so when you think about relationships, for a lot of us, that's the reason why it's a heavy motivator, is because we realize that that's going to take away the sex. That's going to take away the connection that we have with somebody else. And so back to your point about being alone, for a lot of men, it ends up leading to depression. It led to my depression because I'm outside of a relationship. I don't know how to be by myself. I don't know how to deal with my own individuality. Right? I had this unhealthy attachment to being with somebody else. Right, and a lot of us don't understand that it's not a crime and it's not a punishment to be alone, right? It's actually where you do your best work, is where you find out who you are and you're able to find your purpose, which then gives you your identity outside of the things that you think are external to, the things that make you who you are, right? So for me, I think what I always tell men that struggle with that is, like you said, Alone doesn't mean being lonely, and you have to spend time by yourself, because if you don't spend time by yourself, you'll never know who you are outside of what you do.
Absolutely.
I think one of the things when I had the opportunity I practice mindfulness and stillness, and I think that essence in that moment of being still, you have to be able to forgive yourself. I think a lot of times as men or as people in general, we don't forgive ourselves. And it's like, that doesn't condone an action that you have, positively or negatively, right? But if you look at a relationship, it's like, am I going to forgive myself because it happened, but how am I going to move forward with it? And once you forgive yourself, you begin to trust yourself. And once you trust yourself, that's how you can move forward in developing those new relationships. One of the things I like to say is we're all just trying to make art. Art is authentic relationships formed through trust. So that's what I try to look at in terms of formulating that way. But if you don't trust yourself, how are you then going to be able to develop that authentic relationship with somebody else and make art with them?
You know, the hard. No, I was just going to say real quick, like being still, because I'm sure people are wondering, like, well, how do you find yourself or how do you find your voice? And like through my personal experience, being by myself, it really forces you to be present. And being present is about like being in the now. It's not about thinking about the past and things that have gone wrong or that you wish could have gone better. It's not about the future and thinking about things that haven't happened yet and scenario playing in your head, building up stress, anxiety, etc. Right? So when you think about the past, like that can build up depression. When you're thinking about the future, that brings on anxiety for things that haven't even happened yet. But when you're truly present and in the now, you're able to take that journey inward and just kind of be, right? And really tap into your being.
Yeah.
I was going to say to add.
This was a good question.
Oh, no, yeah. It's doing what it's supposed to do, you know what I'm saying?
Because, see, we talk about forgiving ourselves, but the question is, what does that look like? Part of forgiveness is there's a stage of mourning. You have to mourn what you didn't get. And you have to mourn who didn't give it to you and find reconcile. And what is reconcile? Reconcile doesn't mean that you can write it. Reconcile means that you find understanding that. Because I know that was one of the things that I had to deal with football. Mourning who I thought I was supposed to be.
Who you thought you were supposed to be.
Exactly. Because again, in my mind, I was supposed to be an athlete. And the way we are trained as athletes, right, you're not trained to think outside of the box of the field. Like you're trained to react. You're trained to attack. You're not trained to have an expansive thought of yourself in any other spaces. Right. So the shifting in that thought process has to come through a mourning, because once I mourn, there's also a grieving process. I also have to allow the identity that I had in this space of my life, I have to allow that to die. Right. And until you allow it to die, you can't have wholeness, you can't have forgiveness in its entirety. And what you have is you have the replaying of the mental tapes. And this is what happened with a lot of brothers, is I can't get past where I failed. I can't get past who I thought I was in that season. And that limits you from being able to explore other places that you can go as a man.
It sounds, and just playing off of what you're saying, it's like if you don't mourn the death of the past, then it'll haunt you. You know what I'm saying? Like that's exactly what it is. It's gonna haunt, that thought is gonna haunt you no matter where you go. And if you see somebody else doing what you thought you were supposed to be doing, now you're angry, now you're upset, now you like, and it's not even that person's fault, and you just hate that person for no reason. But what I was gonna say is that also with this process, for anybody that's doing it, because I think all of us have been through it, I think anybody in the crowd, is that you have to treat yourself like your best friend when you're going through this process.
Oh, absolutely.
You can't treat yourself like your worst enemy and expect to come out of this like a bed of roses. Because it's an ugly journey, like what your journal says. It's ugly.
Yeah.
And you have to be okay with it being ugly in order to find the pretty.
So something all you guys actually said, I don't know if you noticed, was how much we attach what we do, right? How much what we do becomes a defining thing of who we are. You said it, what we do is not who we are, right? It was something on your platform I read where you said we prioritize health over hustle, which is interesting because as a black man, you know, hustling is part of who we are, right? You grow up, hip hop says it all the time, hustle hard. Like you just hear all of these things where hustling became the thing to do 24/7. Now we find ourselves stressed out and overworked, You know what I'm saying? We're not dealing with our emotions, but we making money though. You know what I'm saying?
Team no sleep.
Team no sleep. Like, how is that a thing?
The worst mantra
The
ever.
worst mantra ever. But you know what?
Dude, lay down, man.
Take a nap, brother. Right? So how, first of all, when do you think that started changing? Because now we have football players, we have entrepreneurs, CEOs up here talking about health over hustle. When we know getting the bag is how we provide for our families, getting the bag is how we do different things. When do y'all think that started changing for our community? And who do you think, who are we engaging with those platforms? Is it the younger generation or is it only us? Because from my experience, right, I just turned 40, believe it or not, right? So I just turned 40, but I just got into the mentality of living a softer life, living a healthier life, getting rest. You know what I'm saying? Like, actually telling myself, maybe I need a nap right now, and that being something that I prioritize in my schedule. When did that happen for you guys, and who are we reaching?
Yeah, I was gonna say real quick. So for the younger generation, I think we already have seen our parents try to grind into wealth, and we kind of noticed that that's not really the route that we want to take. So for me personally, I'm building something with Express Yourself Black Man with Safe Haven, but I'm not going to grind myself into a pulp to build it, right? Like, I've seen a lot of men that will build companies and build brands and build businesses and then have no private life, no family life, will sacrifice that all for a business. And for me personally, that's not ever the route that I've wanted to take. So the way that I started is by making sure that I maintain, myself, and maintain my relationships with family and the people around me, because I never want to build something and sacrifice that. Because when you think about wellness, there's so many different dimensions to wellness. And I think, again, it goes back to what we prioritize as Black men, which is a lot of times money and sex. So for us, it's like, I'm going to do as much as I can to get as much money as possible, because we think that that's also going to lead to sex, and that's all we're worried about. But there's so much more to life than just those two facets. And I think we have to focus on the other dimensions of wellness, our social life, our families. Those are things that we don't prioritize as much because we don't think of it as something that we need to be worried about. But in actuality, when you think about the things that we talked about, right? No man wants to really be alone. Like, the way that you make sure that you're not alone when you're doing these things is by prioritizing your family, prioritizing your relationships as well. So I spend as much time with my family and the people around me as I do with Express Yourself Black Man and Safe Haven, because at the end of the day, why would I build this thing up if it's going to deteriorate the things that I have around me? So that's the way I see it.
But you know what you had to do, though, Kizzle?
What's up?
You had to give yourself permission, right?
I did, yeah, exactly.
Exactly. And I think that's what brothers need to see. I know with myself and Ryan and some other athletes, as we have shared, I'm a 2-time suicide survivor after football. So, depression was real for me. But I think for us, it started when Black men became vulnerable out in the open. And I have to, shout out my brother and my dear friend Charlemagne for that. Because when he started sharing his journey of therapy and restoring his marriage publicly, right, we've never seen that.
Yeah.
We've never seen nobody lay all their stuff on the table and say, this is me.
Yeah.
We've seen people have to go through a process publicly, right, when they don't have a handle on their life. But to see somebody go through it in real time that says, you know what, I started therapy because I recognize that there are some behaviors of mine that are getting out of control, and it's bleeding into my family, it's bleeding into my career path, it's bleeding into how I show up for myself. And I think brothers are now feeling like they have a voice through us providing permission, because a lot of men don't feel like they have permission to even take a break.
Right.
Think about it. How many, I grew up in the South, how many old men will work 30 years, give their all to the family, and just die? They die on their sword, they die on the battlefield, and then the family gets mad because they died. And I think what we are doing is giving brothers a voice to say, hey, you don't have to sacrifice yourself for the family.
I think it's also come down to we're more open as a generation.
Absolutely.
No matter if it's the younger, older. Like I'm 45 as well, so I'm with you. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like now, like, you got brothers saying, "Hey man, I love you, man. How you doing?"
Fact.
Back in the day, peace, brother. You get that.
Yeah.
You get a peace, brother.
Yeah.
But you weren't getting, hey, man, I love you. Like, now you got genuine love that's happening across the board. Like, and like what we were just talking about earlier, I'm like, Mark, I love seeing success in somebody else. Like, I think the hate is starting to diminish. It's still there.
Yeah.
It's definitely still there. But I think now it's more that we see somebody else doing something good. We like, damn, I mean, I can do it too.
Yeah.
You know, like it's not as much as a competition, because I believe that competition got a bad rap. I think competition is good, especially between your boys. Oh, man, you did that? Watch me. I'm going to do the same thing.
Right. Healthy competition.
Everybody raises their bar that way. But I think that open love between brothers is helping out more. It's helping them love their parents, because a lot of us grew up without the dad.
Open love, I like that. Amongst black men, it's a different, and I feel it now, even in this room. I was telling my girl about this not too long ago. I feel like black men in general, this open love situation has been the most positive. I've gained the most brothers in the last 2 years of my life. And I'm 40, you know what I'm saying? And I can look at you guys and bond with you. A lot of times, I don't even have to say too much. Yeah. You can look at another black man and be like, King, I get it. I get it, and I know where you at.
You look somebody in the eyes, you looking like, I could beat his ass. Like,
right,
That's how we
or it's beef.
But here's how it's changed, like, because you look somebody in the eyes now and like, man, you've been through some shit.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
Right? Like, let's cut it. Like, especially after the last few years, like, man, like, cut it. You too? Like, we are going through some
We
things.
going through some shit.
We are going through some things right now. Like,
And that,
so, like,
and that pandemic was a neutralizer.
yeah, that was a
Talk
great
about it.
equalizer.
Man,
so now
the
everybody's on the
equalizer.
same footing and like, look, like let's cut it, man. Like, we don't have to walk around like this no more. I tell as many black men as I can, good job, bro.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, good.
I think this
doing
goes
a good
long
job.
way for everybody. Next time you see somebody, male, female, whatever, just start complimenting people. I do that shit all the time.
Yeah.
And it's funny how surprised people are with a compliment.
But they're not accustomed to genuine people.
Yeah.
Though.
Yeah.
You know.
They're like, what you want? Why you being so nice to me? Yeah.
Exactly.
He tried to talk to me. No, I said,
Nah,
you
just
dress look nice.
Yeah.
Boom, that's it. I kept going. That's it. Like, I think that's, and with fellas too, like, hey man, them shoes look good, man. Hey man, in the gym, whatever it is, hey man, you working out. I ain't saying you got to compliment to a certain point.
Right,
you got to
right.
be nice and then give compliments, and I think that goes a very long way.
On the health.
Go ahead, Ryan.
No, I was just going to say real quick on the health over hustle piece. You just got to look at like the tangible benefit. Sometimes I think that really helps people too. So in addition to like giving yourself permission to do it, understanding like, oh, I actually do better when I'm well rested, right? And that shows up in our work. And how can you think that like I could be the best and highest version of myself if I'm tired, if I'm hurt, if I'm not feeling well, right? So like you got to understand and really just grasp the concept of like, man, if I feel like I'm if I feel like I'm my best, then I will be my best and I'll show up as my best.
And you will hustle.
You will hustle, and you'll hustle better. So if you really want to be about your hustle, then figure out how you can hustle better, right? Not hustle harder necessarily.
100%. And I was actually going to think about your book is called Just Heal, Bro. Kizzle, you got Express Yourself, Black Man. And even we talk about how you guys talk about telling each other, like, I love you, bro. I always think now, oftentimes, like when you text somebody, you call somebody, what's the first thing you ask them when you say, like how are you?
You good.
Right? Or how you doing? 3 words. What do most people say? I'm cool. I'm straight. I'm all right. You know what I'm saying? So one thing I like to do with people I actually care about and ask them, like the first question, like, are you happy? Like it's 3 words, same question, but it's an entirely different level of powerful because the reason they're asking that question, you also empower them. It's okay for them to say no, right?
Yeah, because some people scared of that answer.
Right, exactly, but that's why you ask that question. Because a lot of, even going back to earlier in terms of self-reflection and being alone, like when was the last time somebody else, if they haven't done that conversation, has asked themselves, damn, am I actually happy? Yeah. So if you ask that person, are you happy, it forces them to take a step back and be like, you know what, actually I'm not. And here's why. And then all you do is just listen. Right.
Or not even happy, just more penetrating and more thought-provoking questions. Like a friend of mine started asking me, how's your heart, instead of how are you?
Exactly.
So you think, you start to internalize, well, damn, like how's my heart? Yep. You know what I'm saying? I'm in a space right now, bro. They'll let you know because they got to think about that.
Yep.
You can't lie about where your heart's at, but you can lie about how you doing. I'm fine.
Yeah, 100%.
What that question is doing is connecting you to your emotion. And I think a lot of times is, man, we try to hide that, right? So when we get to how are you, it's like, I'm good, bro. One thing I do with the how are you is I say, give me the long answer, right? And then you have a choice whether you want to do it or not, but I'm forcing you to think about the long answer versus you just saying, I'm good, I'm chilling, right? Because a lot of times that's what's going to end up happening when you say, how are you, bro? We're just so trained to just say, I'm good, because we've been forced to be good for so long, we don't know how to say, nah, bro, I need help.
Yeah. And one of the things I love was, especially your platform, Mundy, with what you're doing with Alchemy in terms of like just even framing up like your journey of healing with that, and even going back to what you have, Jay, too, like even in like, not argue, like, bro, just heal, bro. Just heal. Like, and it's even just framing, just saying it that way is much more relatable. Because a lot of times, especially within our community, you have that negative connotation of therapy and negative connotation of mindfulness and meditation. It's like, I don't want to do that. But even if you just say, just heal, bro, it's like, damn, that's so much more relatable than like, you need to go see a therapist. Right?
You got to think about how we were raised. There's a negative connotation with the improvement of any black man. A black man can say, hey, man, I'm going to stop drinking. Man, what's wrong with you, dog? Why are you going to stop drinking? You know what I'm saying? I think we got to get to that point where, like, if we see somebody trying to improve themselves, that's not a knock on what you're doing. It's just like...
we got to clean that
that's
up.
The guy that don't drink. But I'm just saying that. Or it could be anything. Somebody could say, man, you know what? I'm 40, but I'm going to go back to school. Man,
Right.
why would you do that?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we're so quick to discourage somebody from improving themselves.
But you know what, though, John? It's not us. It's society.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
And here's what I've been saying. As men heal, especially as black men begin to heal, it's going to challenge black women to change their perception of black men.
That's a fact.
Because there has to be space provided for his growth.
No, it does.
Which is grace. Meaning that it's a journey. So this brother may not be there today, but doesn't mean that he can't become that 6 months from now.
And they also got to be okay, because and ladies that's here, don't take this the wrong way. Fellas, a lot of times they scared to talk to the woman in their life.
Tell them why, John.
Because they don't want to look weak. And if they do come to them, they're going to be like, what are you talking about? Like, what you mean you can't handle this? I need to take a break. Like, I'm working so hard. Like, y'all probably don't know how many men take a nap in their car. Just because I've noticed this, and this is just, I would say just women. I ain't going to put it on black women. Men are scared to take a nap around their woman. It's something about it. Man, look at his lazy ass over there asleep.
Now you lazy. You could be doing anything else, but you over there lazy.
He done worked 60 hours this week, picked up the kids, tried to make sure he did everything with you, but as soon as he take a nap, that little lazy mother.
I heard I saw the meme on Instagram literally this morning. My good friend Akbar had a commentary around like expressing yourself in the home. And he said, and I'm going to paraphrase this, but he said, when I'm right, it ends up in an argument. And when, I don't say anything, then I'm hurting on the inside. Or like when I walk away, like I feel like, I'm diminishing myself, right? And so like when you do feel like you want to like have a leg to stand on and express yourself, right? Like it becomes a combative type of conversation as opposed to like where like, all right, like I'm not even trying to go down that route right now, right? Like you have to kind of just take the L for lack of a better word, you know what I mean? And so like providing, to Jay's point around like reframing the conversation in the relationship, particularly through this like healing journey to create space for that conversation and the validating point and affirming black men in the perception and the growth, I think is really, really important.
I think a lot of people don't realize, a lot of women don't realize that men actually don't like to argue.
That's a fact.
Hate it. Absolutely hate it.
We absolutely hate it.
Don't want to do it.
So then I think on the flip side, what's been talked on the other side is that if they don't argue, they don't love. If they don't argue, they're not going to battle for you. If they don't argue, then they're not going to stand up for you. It's like, no. We'd rather have, we deal with so much shit outside of the home. The one place we got is home. We want peace. Even if we got a disagreement, let's talk about it. What did I do to make you mad so I can improve it? And a lot of times the silent treatment will happen. Now we're like, well, we don't even know what we did wrong, but we got to figure it out somehow. We got to phone a friend.
Well, I could do a whole series on that. and I think also, man, is here's a real reason why a lot of men don't like to share for the women that are watching maybe here. It's a fear of being emotionally blackmailed. it's having what I share be weaponized against me.
Right. Right.
Because we observe how women deal with each other. You see it all day in these reality shows. We watch women throw each other under the bus and will literally go eat brunch with each other. And for us as men, we don't process that because I can't talk about John and expect to hang out with John because once and Ryan noticed in the locker room, once you hit below the belt, it's dead.
Yeah.
So it's on sight every time we see each other.
and even not that, it's even having a respect to say, hey, I know what it is because you went too far.
Look at the Draymond situation.
And everybody expect Poole to just be like, you know what? Come on back to the table. They put it on him.
Yeah.
Like, you're right.
And so also having this process, and I wanted to add to what you were sharing in my clinical studies. More than 50% of men, when they take their lives, it's in their car. It's in their car. And also, let me add this component, that suicide right now is the highest it's ever been amongst black men, almost 80%. Third leading cause of death between brothers ages 14 to 25. Wow. And I remember growing up in the South that we thought that was white people do that. It's become a major issue. So I want to honor each one of these brothers that are up here that is a voice because as the work that we're doing, as I tell him often, Kizzy, I said, the demand is so much greater than the solution. Yeah. Because there's only so many black male therapists that brothers feel safe, and there's only so many resources, and brothers are really dying in corners and in silence because of what Ryan said. It's like, I don't know how to tell her that I'm not okay.
And that's why why representation with therapy matters a lot. I don't know if y'all know Cares, one of my guys, therapists. You know what I'm saying? Like just his physical appearance for me. If that was my therapist, I'd have got a lot off my chest a long time ago. You know what I'm saying? Like, if he looked just like me, hat backwards, it wasn't so formal. You know what I mean? I didn't think I was in this weird chair with like some white man. You know what I mean? Like trying to pick through my brain. But I do want to take a little pivot because one of the things, I know we're touching on mental health, but I also want to touch on physical health, right? And with your platform, some of the things that I didn't even know was the difference between a vegan and a vegetarian. You know what I'm saying? Like simple things, because black men, we'll go in, but we don't really pay attention to our health, and we show up physically strong and really fucked up on the inside, you know what I'm saying? And we're not allowed space to make those healthy choices and those pivots. A scenario I was in, or my girl was in, who was vegan or vegetarian for a few, she would go to a spot, order a meal, it might be a combo that came with meat, and says, you know, just give me the sides. And she's met with like frustration. And or you at the barbecue, you know what I'm saying? Like, and the uncle's looking at you like, you're gonna eat these ribs, but no, unc, I'm vegan now. You know what I'm saying?
What you mean you vegan?
Exactly. So in
your
black
grandmama, your auntie, everybody ate meat. What's wrong with you?
It happens all the time.
That's veal. That's a baby cow, right?
Right. So
you smacking God in the face by not eating meat.
You know what I'm saying? Exactly.
I done heard it all.
So where I want to ask you, like, how do we get more sensitive and more accommodating, right, in our homes and like with people who have these different food choices? You know what I'm saying? How do you deal with that?
I don't give a fuck. First, I think that helps. I don't care what nobody's opinion is. So I think that really helps. Like, because like we said, as black men, you got to build tough skin growing up. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just how it is. My family owns the #1 barbecue restaurant in all of Tennessee and Arkansas. So imagine me coming to the family reunion. There you go. So you kind of got to get to that point where you just, and they try to crack their jokes, but they also know that I'm going to let them have it too.
Right.
But I think also it's like, we are starting to get to a point where everybody understands that, like, somebody's trying to eat for their health. They're not doing it to spite you. I think literally at the beginning, my mom, when I first went vegan, she was like, he can do that all he wants to. I don't care. I'm like, Mama, you done had cancer twice, had to have your stomach removed, replaced, put back in, and you talking about, like, I'm just tripping over here by trying not to go down the same path as you. When the doctor told us it was the food she was eating. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. But one thing we have to realize is that and I don't mean to go too far on a tangent. I think we have to realize that food is the most addictive thing that we ever put in our body. Like, the government messes up on a lot of things. The one thing they got right is when they said it was the FDA, because Food and Drug Administration. Food is a drug.
Wow.
So that's why when people say, "Oh man, I ain't eating that no more," man, I can't. You do that all you want to. I'm eating mine. They start getting possessive over it. Like, I'm eating mine. You like, dude, you just said you taking 18 pills a day.
Yeah.
And you can get rid of it right now.
Yeah.
If you change your way. So I think it's being more understanding, like, look, man, maybe they are going down a certain way that might help me too. Or even if I don't want to go that way, I don't have to knock them for doing it. What we just said, open love.
Right.
Like, what I'm doing right now is not making you less of a person or less of a man. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. So I think that's one of the biggest things, just be open to other people's, like, lifestyles when it happens.
Absolutely.
And by the way, women, I do love y'all. I wasn't trying to make y'all feel earlier when I said that. I wasn't trying to put nobody on the bus.
John, I thought you was going to go deeper than that, man.
Man, I could, but
Bro,
we only got 3 minutes and everybody got to talk, man.
Bro, I'm so listen, brothers, y'all got to take care of yourself and eat better, man. Go get your physicals, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Get off of these gas station pills, bro.
Oh, man.
Because
that gas station.
like, real talk. And this is why this is why what John is saying is so critical, because brothers are, like, again, if you could just, because I'm 40, you 45, you 40. None of us look like our
36.
age.
That's a fact.
Ryan 40?
37.
37.
You know what I mean? Kids, what you, 20?
Because you like 19?
Baby.
Just say what your chest, Kizzle.
But no, you are right. Okay, if I go deep on it, like, put it this way. Black men are running the nation as far as death by heart disease, stroke, hypertension.
Yeah.
Like, the number one killer of black men ain't the bullet.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's not. It's what the fuck we eating.
Yeah.
But then I was at my uncle's funeral. This is a great example of this. I'm at my uncle's funeral. Everybody at the table is like, man, if he would have just ate better, man, it just would have been.
Yeah.
We ain't even eaten yet. It just would have been better. You know, he was eating too much fried shit, and all of a sudden they like, food ready. Oh shit, let's go. And it wasn't nothing. But it was to the point. It was so bad that they didn't even take the Popeyes out the box. It was still sitting on the table. They didn't even try to dress it up. I'm like, y'all just talk shit about Unc for not changing his habits, and they broke their neck to get in that line. They broke their neck to get over there, man. Damn near fighting to get to the chicken.
I think it's also interesting that, first of all, that FDA food drug, that was
deep.
Drug,
That was deep.
That was a bar.
Yep.
But one of the things, I was overseas for 7 weeks, and one of the things being over there, especially like being in France and Greece, is that you don't really see obese people. You don't see fat people in Europe, right? Why? Because they don't eat processed food the way we do. So even if you talk about not even vegan, vegetarian, like the American eats a lot.
You have to realize
food.
that, like, 90% of the stuff that's sold in stores here, they won't even let that shit be sold in Haiti, like a third world country.
Everybody wants to eat the charcuterie boards right now.
Exactly.
Right? Cheese is made from mold. What is American cheese? It is a processed cheese. The only actual cheese that we have, the American cheese, is not actually even real cheese. It is processed. But if you go to France and Italy, it's real cheese.
So is it the food or is it the food quality?
But see, this is the thing.
Both. And the
people,
portions.
It's both. But
Okay.
the problem is that everybody want to be like, well, people been eating it like this forever. It's like, no, they haven't. Like, we are not in the time that your grandfather was eating the food. Right. You can't go back in time. This shit right now is what we got. And if you keep eating it, it's like you got to think about it. And everybody's like, well, the doctor said this, the doctor said this. Doctors used to prescribe cigarettes for weight loss.
Yeah.
Cocaine.
And I just want to say, and fellas, like Jay said, just because your physical appearance seems so strong and fit.
How many bodybuilders died in the last 2 years?
Dog. You know what I'm saying?
And even in the European thing as well, like our portion control, American portions are ridiculous. Like, why do you ever actually need a double cheeseburger?
A double cheeseburger where it's 2 chicken patties as the bun.
Like, you just one patty is fine.
Yo, the band about to play us out. So we ain't gonna tie it up. Yo, brothers, I want to thank y'all. Seriously, I want to thank y'all. We touch on some very deep topics. I know all of us could go way deeper in the bag with all of this stuff. So please follow these brothers. Please listen to let those words not go in one ear and out the next. You know what I'm saying? We black men and we trying to be here for a long time.
Every
You know what
time
I'm
you
saying?
eat, just think FDA.
Also, Will, we gonna need a towel. It's a spill over here, so we gonna need some cleanup.
That was for the homies, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yo,
for
clap
the
it up
homies.
for my
Yeah,
brothers,
we
yo.
gonna need to clean up over here as well.
Yo, I'm kidding.
Let's go. Seriously.